Week 1 is in the books. Whether you won or lost your fantasy matchup, there is still a lot of work to do to win fantasy football championships. Here are 10 players I'm buying or selling in fantasy football trades heading into week 2. Before I dive into it, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss out on our weekly content all season long. Number 1, buy Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is coming off a really disappointing week 1 where he had just 2 catches for 19 yards, but he did still see a healthy 7 targets. I still like Kyle Pitts as a top 3 tight end option in fantasy football, and you're basically getting to play a wide receiver in your tight end slot with Kyle Pitts. I'm buying low if someone's panicking with Kyle Pitts in my league. Number 2, buy Trey Lance. Trey Lance is coming off a tough week 1 with some bad weather in Chicago, but he did run the ball 13 times, the second most of any quarterback in week 1, only behind Jalen Hurts, who had 17. Trey Lance isn't going to have 0 touchdowns for long. I'm not going to trade too much for a quarterback in fantasy football, but I'm buying Trey Lance. Number 3 comes from that Bears-49ers game as well. I'm buying Darnell Mooney. Darnell Mooney had a really disappointing week 1, only 1 catch for 8 yards. I think Darnell Mooney's still the clear wide receiver 1 for this Bears team, and I think he's going to have a big week 2 against the Packers team that just got torched for 180 yards by Justin Jefferson in week 1. I'm buying the dip on Darnell Mooney. Number 4, buy Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey scored 15 fantasy points in week 1, which was his worst fantasy performance in a game where he played the entire game since 2018. We saw Christian McCaffrey's floor in week 1. I still think he's a number 1 overall running back in PPR leagues by the end of the season if he stays fully healthy, and he looked fully healthy. I'm buying Christian McCaffrey. Number 5, hold/buy CeeDee Lamb. He did see 13 targets in week 1, but he didn't do very much with them. I'm not selling low on CeeDee Lamb, and it does look like Dak Prescott's going to be back. Don't sell low on CeeDee Lamb. Number 6 is sell Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs was on my do not draft list this season, and we saw why. I would be looking to sell immediately. He's way too touchdown dependent to be trusted in fantasy football this season. I'm hitting the panic button on Josh Jacobs, and I'm selling him for basically anything I can get. Number 7 is sell Najee Harris. I'm fully ready to smash the panic button with Najee Harris, a guy that we were only drafting because he led the league in touches last season. Basically, any wide receiver 1 or running back 1 I could get for Najee Harris, I think I would do that. Number 8, sticking on the same team, I'm buying Deontay Johnson. I'm taking the L on Deontay Johnson, a guy that was not on my do not draft list, but he was a guy I was fading for the most part this offseason. I was worried that maybe his playstyle meshed better with Big Ben than it would with Mitch Trubisky, but I was #wrong about that, and I'm eating the L, and I'm buying Deontay Johnson in fantasy. I think there's going to be some big performances from Deontay Johnson, who has commanded targets in this league now for 3 consecutive years. We should expect that to happen again this season after a strong week 1 performance. Number 9, I'm buying A.J. Dillon. I already have A.J. Dillon on basically all of my fantasy teams, but if you don't, I think you should strongly consider sending some trade offers for A.J. Dillon. A.J. Dillon is going to win fantasy leagues this season. He led the Packers in both receptions and receiving yards in week 1. This is probably not going to be the only week where that is the case. Last but certainly not least, number 10 is add/buy Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill is available in over 80% of Yahoo, ESPN, and Sleeper leagues right now. That should not be the case. And he has tight end designation on basically every fantasy platform. You can start Taysom Hill in a considerable amount of situations. I will bet he's going to throw some passes as well. Really, if you don't have one of the top 3 or top 5 tight ends in fantasy, you should strongly be considering adding or buying Taysom Hill and throwing him right into the starting lineup. Those are 10 players I'm buying and selling in fantasy football heading into week 2. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss our content all season. And time is the most valuable thing we have. So thank you for spending some time with me today. I'll be back soon.